What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Common Coder. My name is Josh, and in this video, we're going to be talking about AI in software development. More specifically, we're going to try and tackle the big question of should you be using AI coding tools in your software development workflow? And I think this is an important discussion for developers of all skill levels because there's a lot of hype and buzz and even a little bit of fear surrounding the world of AI. And this is especially true in the world of software engineering. Oh, hey there, Mr. AI man. So my goal by the end of this video is that hopefully you'll have a better understanding of when AI can help you as a developer, when it might do more harm than good, and how to strike the right balance in this new AI-powered world. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so whether we like it or not, software development has definitely changed. In just a few short years, we've seen the rise of AI coding assistants like Windsurf, Gemini Code Assist, Cursor, GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, and many, many more. Now, these tools are fundamentally transforming the way we write code, but the real question is, are they making us better developers or are they just making us lazy and dependent? So let's start by breaking down the pros and cons of some of these AI coding tools, including who should use them, when they're helpful, and perhaps some of the risks of relying on them too much. So let's go ahead and start off with who should be coding with AI. As with most things in life, we tend to gravitate towards the path of least resistance. The same is true in software development. We often rely on frameworks, libraries, and proven technology stacks to help make our jobs easier. And to be honest, why wouldn't we? Rebuilding something that already exists in a well-documented, well-tested, and widely used framework would be a tremendous waste of time and money. If you think about AI, it's really no different in this regard. AI can help us speed up our development, it can answer our questions, and it can automate some of the not-so-fun aspects of being a software engineer. So the short answer to who should code with AI is everyone. But it's really not quite that simple. As you'll see throughout the rest of this video, how you use and interact with AI coding tools can vary greatly depending on where you are in your software development journey. And no matter what your skill level is, there are certain ways AI can enhance your workflow and others that might do more harm than good. So let's first take a look at using AI as a new or aspiring developer. To truly get value from AI, you need to understand what the generated code actually does. You don't need to know every intricate detail, but you should at least grasp the fundamentals and ask questions about anything that you don't understand. So if you're just learning how to code, here are some things that I would try to avoid when working with AI. First, I wouldn't recommend using AI to generate code for school or bootcamp projects. Blindly copying and pasting code without really understanding what it does won't get you very far, especially if you can't explain, even at a basic level, how it works. Likewise, I wouldn't use AI to generate fake portfolio projects or repositories filled with code that you didn't write. If you can't explain what problems they solve or the challenges that you faced, it's not going to be valuable to a potential employer. Another thing beginners should try to avoid is using AI to bypass learning essential debugging skills. AI can suggest fixes, but if you don't understand why an error is happening, you'll struggle when AI gives you an incorrect or incomplete solution. Debugging is one of the most important things you'll ever do as a developer, and relying too much on AI can make it difficult to develop these skills. Not to mention, even the best AI models will fail or hallucinate at some point in time, and when that happens, you'll need to be able to rely on your own problem-solving skills. For example, in one of the first technical interviews that I ever had, I was given a class written in C# and asked to find everything that was wrong with it. At first glance, everything looked fine, but it wasn't until I broke down the code line by line that I realized there were subtle issues. So if you're not at a level where you can analyze and debug code on your own, it's best to focus on strengthening those skills before leaning in too heavily on AI. However, AI can also be a powerful tool for new and aspiring developers, and in my opinion, it makes it easier than ever to develop the skills you need to succeed in software engineering. So for example, if I was learning to code, I would use AI to ask questions or help me implement a certain feature or task. So you can kind of think of this as a modern equivalent of asking a question on Stack Overflow, except instead of blindly copying and pasting the answer, you take the time to learn and grow from it. Now, there's a reason there's hundreds of copy and paste from Stack Overflow memes across the internet, and you don't want to be one of these developers. You want to actually take the time to learn and understand the solution that's being presented to you. So that way, when it comes to implementing it, or if you come across the same problem again, you'll be better equipped to deal with it. Now, another great way to use AI, and this ties back into the first example, is to get alternative explanations for concepts that you don't fully understand. So if a tutorial or textbook explanation doesn't make sense to you, AI can break it down in a different way. So you can say explain this to me like I was 10 years old. And you can also have it provide real world analogies technologies or even generate step-by-step walkthroughs. And so this is incredibly powerful because when I was learning to program, we didn't have anything like this. There was lots of concepts that I didn't grasp right away, and had they been explained to me in a different way, I think that would have made a big difference early in my career. Now, AI can also be a helpful code review tool. So for example, let's say you write a function or just a bit of code that does a certain task. You can ask AI to analyze it for you and suggest any improvements. And this can help you learn best practices, improve efficiency. Maybe you can figure out a way to make your code more performant, catch potential errors, and it can do all of these while reinforcing your understanding of what your code is actually doing. So as you can see, when used correctly, AI can be a powerful learning tool to help deepen your understanding of software development concepts and build confidence in your coding abilities. Now let's shift our focus to professional or seasoned developers. For this group, AI can be an incredibly powerful tool, but only if you use it wisely. Just as beginners shouldn't rely on AI to write all of their code, experienced developers should also be mindful of its limitations and avoid using it as a crutch. So first, we want to make sure that we don't use AI to generate code that we don't understand. Copying or accepting AI-generated solutions without reviewing or testing them is really not a great idea. AI can generate inefficient code, it can introduce security vulnerabilities, or it could suggest solutions that don't align with your project's best practices. You want to make sure that you always verify, test, and refine AI-generated code before using it in production. Second, don't let AI replace your critical thinking skills. AI is great for automating repetitive tasks, but it can't replace your own ability to problem solve. If you rely on AI too much, you risk losing the ability to debug complex issues, architect scalable systems, and make informed trade-offs. And believe me when I say that everything in software engineering is a trade-off. You should also keep in mind that software engineering is in fact a perishable skill. For example, early in my career, I worked as a full stack .NET developer before transitioning over to a more front-end focused role. Over time, I forgot nearly everything that I knew about working with .NET, and what I did remember had already become obsolete. This field requires continuous learning, and AI is only going to accelerate that need. So if you stop thinking critically and allow AI to do all of the work for you, you're going to quickly fall behind. Finally, if you're using AI to generate unit tests, which is one of the things it's really good at, don't blindly trust the unit tests that it generates, even if they pass. While AI can generate these tests quickly, they often only cover basic functionality and miss important edge cases. So if you rely on them without careful review, you can create a false sense of security, even if your code coverage metrics say otherwise. Now, this is really the old code coverage versus code quality argument. Just because AI writes a test doesn't mean it's actually testing the right things. As a professional developer, it is your job to refine these tests, ensure they handle real-world scenarios, and truly validate the correctness of your code. So now that we know some of the things not to do, let's explore some of the ways that professional developers should be using AI. The first and probably the most obvious is that we should definitely be using AI to boost productivity and efficiency. AI is great at automating repetitive tasks, generating boilerplate code, auto-completion, writing unit tests, refactoring, and even creating documentation. This frees you up to focus more on solving problems, which is what developers are actually paid to do. The goal here isn't to let AI do everything for you, it's to offload some of the tedious parts of software engineering so that you can focus on high-impact development. Second, we can use AI to improve code quality and explore best practices. While AI-generated code can introduce bugs and security vulnerabilities, it can also help identify them, suggest improvements, and identify areas where you can take advantage of industry standards and best practices. But remember, AI is just a tool. It's not an authority. It's up to you to review, refine, and validate the suggestions that the AI is giving you. Finally, AI is a great way to accelerate learning and problem solving. No matter how experienced you are, there's always something new to learn, which is why I say never stop learning at the end of every single video. So AI can help us explore new technologies, explain complex ideas, and even suggest alternative solutions to a problem. When used correctly, it can act as a guide to help deepen your understanding and expand your skills. So for example, recently I had to create an animated loading gradient bar for a project that I'm working on. I asked AI how to approach it. It generated some code that I reviewed, refined, and then implemented in my own code base. So instead of trying to hack through it and searching through a bunch of documentation online and Stack Overflow forums and all that kind of stuff, I was able to just ask AI and get a solid starting point and adapt it to fit my needs. Now, there are many other ways that we can take advantage of AI as software engineers, but these are the ones that I am using personally and that have worked best for me. So whether we like it or not, AI is definitely here to stay. It's already changing the way we write code, debug issues, and even learn new technologies. But what does that really mean for the future of software development? Well, the truth is nobody really knows. AI is evolving fast, but I can't imagine a world where it fully replaces software engineers. As I mentioned earlier, writing code is only a small part of what we do. Software development is really about problem solving, system architecture, balancing trade-offs, and understanding business needs. And these are all things that AI really isn't capable of handling on its own. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that AI won't have an impact. I think AI is going to change how we work, not whether or not we work, if that makes sense. And in my opinion, and I'm an expert on my opinion, AI is also being massively overhyped by the CEOs of big tech and AI companies. Why? Because they've invested billions of dollars into this technology, and they need everyone, especially investors and stakeholders, to believe it's the next industrial revolution. Now, there's no doubt that AI will keep evolving, and as developers, we are going to need to adapt to this new technology. Even if AI isn't going to replace our software engineering jobs, other engineers using AI definitely will. However, if we go back and look at all the tools and the advancements and the various shifts and different things that have happened to software engineering over the years, it can tell us one thing, and that is that tools don't necessarily replace great engineers. They can actually make them even more valuable. And this is how I see AI in this case. And as long as we are willing to adapt to the technology, I think most people will be just fine. So as we've seen, AI can be an incredibly useful tool, but relying on it too much can come with some serious downsides. If you depend on AI for everything, you might be setting yourself up for failure. So here's a couple things to be mindful of. First, AI doesn't always generate correct or efficient solutions. It might give you code that looks fine on the surface, but can contain subtle bugs, security vulnerabilities, or performance issues. If you're not reviewing, testing, and refining your AI-generated code, you're risking major problems down the line. Second, over-reliance on AI can actually hinder your growth as a software developer. Copying and pasting AI-generated solutions without truly understanding them means you're not developing the problem-solving skills that make you valuable in the first place. Software engineers are paid to solve problems, not just write code. And if you don't understand why a solution works, then you're going to struggle when something breaks or when AI inevitably gives you a bad answer. Security and privacy are also major concerns. AI-generated code isn't guaranteed to be secure, and sharing sensitive company code or proprietary logic with an AI model could expose confidential information. This is especially risky in enterprise environments where security is a top priority. Then there's also the issue of ethics and licensing. AI models are trained on vast amounts of publicly available code, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of it is free to use. Some AI-generated code may unknowingly replicate copyrighted content or snippets from projects with restrictive licenses. If you use this code in a commercial product, you could be accidentally violating license agreements without even realizing it. There's also the ethical question of whether the use of AI-generated code is fair to the original authors. This is especially true when companies profit from AI tools trained on open source projects without giving credit or compensation. Finally, AI isn't always accessible. Unlike traditional programming knowledge, which you can rely on anywhere, AI tools require an internet connection and, in most cases, a paid subscription. If you become too dependent on AI and suddenly lose access, whether that's due to an outage or a price hike or a company policy, you might find yourself unable to work effectively. This has already happened with developers online admitting they're freaking out because their AI tool went down. You don't want to put yourself in that position. At the end of the day, you got to remember that AI is just a tool. It's not a replacement for real software engineering skills. We definitely want to use it wisely, but like I mentioned earlier, we don't want it to become a crutch. Now, every AI tool has its own set of strengths and weaknesses, so I wanted to share the ones that I use and how they fit into my workflow. So for my day-to-day development, I use VS Code with GitHub Copilot since my company provides subscriptions. It's great for auto-completion, generating test cases, and using the Copilot chat feature to debug or ask project-specific questions from directly inside of VS Code. Now, for more general programming questions, I've recently started using Claude. Going back to the gradient loading bar example I mentioned earlier, I asked Claude, how do I generate an animated gradient bar with CSS? And then adapted that response to fit my project. I also use it for brainstorming ideas and generating examples for this channel. Now, I also use ChatGPT, but I found Claude often gives better suggestions for coding related questions. However, I do rely on ChatGPT quite a bit for things that are related to this channel, such as refining scripts, brainstorming titles and descriptions, and handling other content-related work. Now, the only one of these tools that I use that actually has a subscription is GitHub Copilot, and since I don't use Claude or ChatGPT on a daily basis, I found that the free versions work just fine for my needs. All right, and that is pretty much going to wrap up this video about coding with AI. If you're using AI in your software development workflow, do me a favor and let me know down in the comments which tools you're using and how they're helping you. I'd love to hear how other developers are using AI to enhance their workflows. Now, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing for more web development content. If you have any other questions, comments, or feedback, or anything else to share, be sure to leave those down in the comments as well. And until next time, be sure to stay curious, never stop learning, and I will see you all in the next video.